And hello again. Welcome back for the R in ARC. And R stands for responsibility. And that could be two R's because I'm also going to talk about radical responsibility, which is, well, pretty radical, dude. Anyway, we're going to start with responsibility. And I thought, I did that in the last video, so I'm going to do it in this, just kind of showing some of the principles that I cover when I do the one-on-one work of what entails doing the responsibility piece of ARC. Okay, so here we go. Let's do the share screen thing again. Bear with me and present. So the principles that we go through on responsibility are the following. Uh, Bum, ba, da, bum. Okay, this one we are going to do here because I think it's really, really important to speak about, and that it is, yeah, the ability to respond. So when I'm talking about responsibility, there will be the piece of radical responsibility, but there is the first piece, which is the ability to respond. Okay, because let's get honest, are you responding or are you reacting? Chances are you're reacting. Most of us do. We've never really been taught how to respond. We just react. And everything that's been modeled to us has been watching reactive people reacting to other reactive people, right? And that is what is modeled to us. And we think it's normal. And now with all these reality TV and, these people who just, flying off the handle, oh no, you didn't. Oh, did you hear what she said? Biatch, all this stuff. It's just like, really? That's how you that's how you want to behave. That's how you want to come off. I beg to differ. But, radical responsibility is about speaking to you are 100 responsibility for your thoughts, your feelings, your behaviors, right? And your actions. And they all lead up to each other, right? Your thoughts become the way you feel inside when you're thinking a certain way, then a feeling usually comes right after that. So if you're thinking you're feeling guilty, guess what? These feelings of guilt come over and you get all inside, right? We talked about that with body awareness before, and it's just easy and doesn't matter. Versus if your thoughts of that of happiness and elation and oh my gosh, I can't wait, then that's a totally different feeling inside to that thought, right? And the way you behave then because of that gets, your behaviors are tainted by your thoughts and your feelings, and the way you behave then, those are the actions that you take, so they're all tied together. And so this part of the looking at the radical responsibility is a huge part that I'm not going to do here in this little mini one, but it's something that we really look at because in the end the results that you have are your responsibility because they came as a result of your thoughts, feelings, behaviors, and actions. So what you got is exactly what you put into it. So it's 100% you. So what's your part in it? That's something else we really take a look at because, you want to talk about dramas. Guess what? Everybody plays a role. And so it's like finding out what role are you playing, but also like what are you contributing? Okay, so it's also, kind of looking at like energy. What are you giving off? Okay, are you contributing like, well, first of all, what role are you playing in it? What's your part in it? Are you playing victim or are you playing accuser? Are you playing mediator? Like, are you playing drama queen? There's all of that. And then what are you contributing? What kind of energy are you contributing? Are you contributing, solutions, or are you just contributing excuses and blaming, versus active listening and just hearing somebody and being present, right? So, what's your part in it? Because guess what? The common denominator in everything is you. So, you really do need to look at what responsibility you have in it. And one of the biggest and harshest truths to look in this responsibility piece is that you can only control you. Okay. We so much want to look at everything that's outside of us and say, if only they would or wouldn't, then I would be. You know what? You have no control over anyone else or anything in that matter except for yourself, which then begets the next question. Do you even have that much control over you and what you're doing, what you're thinking, feeling, behaving, and what your actions are and the results you have, right? So, those are the things we look at in the grand scheme of things when I do the one on one work with you, but again, for this little mini class, we'll take a look at two slides that I had used in my uh, webinar back in October that was an overview of this. So again, we're just going to look at ability to respond and then just briefly touch on that radical responsibility piece. Okay, so let's see, let me share screen again. Here we go. I'm gonna get good at this by the time this is all over. Okay, let's see. And two, three, and ba ba da ba. All right, responsibility. Okay, I'll put that up in the corner. So again, when we're talking responsibility, so this was something I found really interesting. So I looked up what does responsibility mean because I wanted to. I had heard the ability to respond. I'm like, hey, who said that, and who's responsible for that? But when I looked at the dictionary to look at what responsibility means, let's look at this one. And I'm not going to use this one, and you'll see why. In the, well, this dictionary, Macmillan Dictionary, it's the state or job of being in charge of someone or something and making sure that what they do or what happens to them is right or satisfactory. How does that land on you? Being responsible can be very heavy when you look at it that way. The other part of it that really stood out to me is that control piece that, I talked about in the outline that we used about being responsible. Because, we get taught this about being responsible, and it gives that kind of flavor, if you will, that now I'm in control of others, right? I know I'm the eldest of five. And when my mom told me I was responsible for them because I was in charge, right? And she told me all the time, you know exactly what my roles are and what my expectations are. So you better make sure your brother is doing that and as well you. And if not, you're going to get in trouble for it. And I'm like, okay. So heavy burden being responsible. Okay. So we're not going to use that here, and we'll see why. We're going to go responsibility is the ability to respond. And when I found out it was Lucille Ball who said that, I was like, oh my God, you got some explaining to do, Lucy. I loved Lucy, and I don't know if you're even old enough to know that it was black and white TV, but I loved her so much. But yeah, the ability to respond versus reacting. Okay, because the ability to respond versus reacting to what happened, okay? Each and every time something occurs. Because what happens when you react? Well, when you react, you give away your power instantly. Instantly. It's like, it doesn't matter. It could be your kid, the person at work, they will cut you off, right? And you totally lose it. You just gave away your power. Like you made it that basically in essence that person by doing that, like you lost it. You lost control of yourself. So here's the control piece again. You completely lost it. And now you gave it away because now they basically have the control. That's the fact of the matter. When you react, you also play into the drama. So you may say, oh, I don't want to do that anymore. I don't want to be a part of that. But once you react, you have basically instantly given the okay that I will play this drama. I will play that role. Okay. Not only that, you're adding to the trauma. So a lot of these things, as you know, too, growing up in families that are really reactive, a lot of trauma happens around this. Everybody yelling over like the smallest thing and it just getting blown out of proportion and then becomes like, well, I remember last time when you, blah, 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 what you said to me, and it was like, oh my God, adding to the trauma. Okay. Not good. The other thing you do when you react is you're basically dropping to their level. So whenever you want to say, or whatever you want to say about the guy at work or the gal at work, about the a-hole who cut you off, about, your kid who, I can't believe they just did that again, is you're dropping to their level. Maybe it's a family member too that you just are just like, oh my God, they are so XYZ. But once you react to them, you've now just dropped to their level. And that's like, that's a harsh pill to swallow, but that's what's going on because you're reacting. Again, you gave away your power and you're playing into the drama. The other thing, when you react, you're dumping your reactive waste. I wanted to get one of those like little reactive waste signs there because you're dumping on people. You're dumping on people. And if you think about it, you know what that feels like because, we all learned these reactive ways of being from the people who brought us up and, the family members we were around the most. So now you're doing it. Now you're becoming you know, um, the polluter. You're dumping on people. You're dumping your caca all over everybody else. All right. So give a hoot and don't pollute. And the other thing you're doing is that you are reinforcing a negative behavior or habit. Okay. Um, whether yours or theirs, and a lot of times both, because they lose it, right? So take for instance, our kiddo Jesse, a, a pattern that was just like, oh my God, can I ever get out of this would be the homework one. And I know a lot of you parents can relate to that. It's time to do homework. Please sit down and do homework. And then it becomes the, right? And okay, I'm not gonna react. Just let them do their thing. And then it's like, becomes the crying or you go to help and then it becomes this big old thing and then you react. Now you just got into that cycle again. Now you're reinforcing their negative habits and patterns, right? Behaviors. You're doing it to yourself. Maybe you went a little bit longer without doing it, but now you just reinforced it one more time, right? Um, and it just becomes, and again, it could be even with you saying something to somebody when they tick you off, right? Now you have the negative habit or behavior of, saying not so nice things to people. And that's how you get looked at and thought of because that has become your pattern to when they are acting the way. And you can't say, well, if they wouldn't act that way, I wouldn't. Yeah, that's not taking responsibility. And the other part of it is too, when you react, um, you end up not too happy with yourself if you're really quite honest with yourself. I know there'd be those times I was really disappointed in myself. I'm like, God, that's not the kind of person I want to be or think of myself as. And that felt really crappy. And the other part of it is that, the other people on the other side of it aren't really going to like you either. Again, we still love them, but, love's one thing and liking somebody is quite another, right? So I loved this when I was looking up definitions for responsibility. I thought this one was much better. This is the the one they use for kiddos, and I'm like, that is so much better. Being responsible means doing the things you're expected and accept the consequences and results of your actions without blame or excuses. Yes, yes, that is being responsible. Okay. So think about that. You are responsible for doing the things you're expected. Okay. And then there are those other things that just come up, but you also need to accept the consequences and results of your actions without making blame or without making excuses or blaming others for it. Okay. It can't be that, well, if they would just do their homework like I asked them, then we wouldn't have this. No, you just gave away your power. And if it's a child too, you're saying they have much more power over that and you can't control yourself over your reactions. Yeah, look at that. So that's that awareness thing when we really look at, what are the thoughts am I having? How am I looking at this? So a quick overview of radical responsibility, because this is a bigger deep dive into it. in lots of pieces. But this gentleman, Fleet Mall, wrote a book on it because I was looking who's responsible for the term radical responsibility because I'd worked with some gentlemen, Satori Prime, Guy and Elon Ferdman, and they're awesome. And they're the ones who introduced me to this. That's where I first heard it. But radical responsibility involves voluntarily embracing 100% responsibility or ownership for each and every circumstance that you face in life, day in and day out. And that's a big one. Not everybody can do that, because the tendency is to still look outside of yourself about the circumstances and well, I don't have any control over the economy, or I don't have any control over the weather or the traffic or, whoever else's mood. True, you don't, but you do have the ability and the responsibility for your reactions again, right? To respond instead of react. And this guy, Fleet Mall, who wrote the book, Radical Responsibility, that was a really interesting story. He was, I can't remember how old he was, but then he had to face 25 years in jail for trafficking drugs. And when he realized he wasn't going to see his child grow up because he was going to be in jail for the whole time, he took on being radically responsible in jail and wrote a book about it, just everything he had to be responsible for in his responding and not reacting to people in jail, because obviously they really don't have too many positive coping skills, right? So I still need to read that book, but it just really got me with that of him, embracing that he's 100% responsible for his being in jail, and also as a result that his son didn't have a father present. So here's another little tidbit of radical responsibility. The moment you accept responsibility for everything in your life is the moment you gain the power to change anything in your life. Okay. And again, we're not responsible. I'm not saying you're responsible for the crap that happened to you when you were a child. Okay. You're not. Okay. And a lot of things happen to us, but you're an adult now. And now it is your responsibility to heal that and to shift that and to make sure you don't repeat those same things to yourself and to the others around you. So, taking responsibility for where you are now, okay, and not blaming other people for crap that happened in the past, because guess what? That's over. They're not doing it. But chances are you're probably still doing it to yourself. Yeah. And when someone makes a mistake, it is their responsibility to correct it. Okay. But it is your responsibility to handle how you feel about it. So again, other people, like at work or other situations, hey, it's not your responsibility and you have no control over it. And they're the ones who have to make it right, and correct it. But again, it falls back on you about how you handle it, how you respond or react to it, and what you do about it, how you're going to think about it, and what your next, actions are going to be. That's yours. That's all you. Okay. And then last but not least, still Deepak, is every time you are tempted to react in the same old way, ask if you want to be a prisoner of the past or a pioneer of the future. And I really like that because so many times we don't realize, again, that our reactions are learned behaviors that came from a not so healthy place. And, things that did happen to us. But it's now your responsibility to bring that awareness to how you're feeling, the thoughts you're having, how you are behaving, the actions you're taking, and decide, do you want to be a prisoner to that past, or do you want to be a pioneer of the future and decide for yourself what you want to be? Which will take us very nicely into the next video, which is choice, which is what that's all about. So join me there for that one. And in the meantime, think about responsibility and your ability to respond and take 100% responsibility for where you're at in your life. Okay, cheers.